One of the reasons why we've chosen to make Christian education a part of our ministry strategy is because Christian formation was important to me, first of all, as a leader. Then, of course, for those who served on my ministerial staff, when I pastored here at Cornerstone, it was important to me that they also had a good foundation, theological foundation. And so when we talked about what that would look like, we talked about how we can get some information. Information leads to formation, which we believe will cause transformation. And so that's one of the reasons why it's important to me as a leader. When we first talked about having a Bible college here at the church, it was primarily, again, just for the church, just for the leadership of our church, and maybe some laity also who felt like God was called them to a higher calling. It morphed into actually going out to our community, because when others found out that we were having a Bible college here, and many of the pastoral friends that I served along with here in Washington wanted to take part in it, and many of them still do today. Not only do they take part in it, but many of their members of their church and their leaders do as well. As a pastor, when I pastored here, because it was important to me, and I say this, that the culture of a church is set by the pastor or by the leader. And so as a pastor who felt the need for high biblical studies, theological studies, I felt like because it was important to me, then it would be important to those who I served. And so it wasn't a real problem with me championing it.
Well, I think as we look at the importance of academia, specifically in the theological realm, I think it's very important that we train leaders to be as efficient as possible when it comes to leading in ministry, leading churches. And we need to do more than just teach the Bible. The Bible is the authority. But we also need to ensure that our leaders, our ministers, our pastors are equipped and trained for the work of the ministry. And some of that equipment and training is not just biblical understanding, and it's not just understanding who God is, but it's also being able to ask the question theologically, what is the role of the church? What is the role of the leader? What is the role of the minister? And how do we best utilize our skills in the time in which we live in today? And so I think that's one of the major needs for academia, and that's one of my major push towards the leaders that I serve, as well as those outside of those that I serve directly.
I'll just interject here. I agree with what Dr. Cotton said. As a matter of fact, when I pastored the church and in my transition to our international headquarters as a director in one of the departments, one of the things that I asked the Lord about was a college. It was important to me to make sure that this particular entity of our ministry was strong and that it could continue to move forward. So seeking for a pastor was not just a pastor, but we needed somebody that I felt would be able to continue what we started with the Bible college here at Cornerstone. As a matter of fact, and that's probably one of the primary reasons why we chose Dr. Cotton to come in to pastor the church, was because of the academia side, the theological academia side. He had his degree when he came to us. And as a matter of fact, the day he was installed as the pastor of the church, he was also installed as the president of the college. And so since that time, he's filled that role.
Well, I'll start there since I meet with them directly. I had the pleasure of Dean Gloria. When I came in, she was not just the dean, but she was also my administrative assistant. So she was here every day. And so we would have the opportunity to sit down and discuss just some of the things that we would like to see happen. And then a lot of the conversation that I will also have with Dr. McIntyre, the Chancellor. And between him and I and speaking with them, just ensuring that we're making sure that the students have what they need. That's the biggest and main importance, is ensuring that the students are not just equipped with the classes, but making sure that the communication is consistent, making sure that we're steady thinking about cutting edge ways and how we can move the school forward by marketing and things of that nature, which that was one of the reasons we decided to put the board together, because it was better to have more minds. As the Bible says, there's safety in the multitude of counsel. And so we wanted to put a board together that could not just come along, myself and Chancellor Dr. McIntyre, but they can also assist our deans in not the everyday operations, but ensuring that the word get out.
That was pivotal for us. While Dr. Cotton and Dean Gloria and I would have conversation on certain things, I think the added advantage to us now is that we do have a board of directors, and who are graduates from our college, by the way. They're all of them except for, I think Dean Gloria right now have their doctor's degree.
Yeah, all of them. So.
She's working on hers, and so she'll have hers real soon. But they have become great advisors to us in the planning, the vision casting of our school. And so, yeah, the day-to-day operation, Dean Gloria, Dr. Cotton mentioned, it was his administrative assistant, but she was mine too, just for a little while, which also helped us with the day-to-day operation. I'll add also, just interject, Dr. Carroll, Janice Carroll. Dr. Carroll, we installed her as our student support dean. So she's been very, very integral in terms of meeting with the students, in terms of where they are in the journey, making sure that they, as Dr. Cotton mentioned, have whatever they need to be successful. So that's been a great part of what have allowed us to be where we are today. I'll say this: we're here today, but we're constantly planning, looking forward to the future for how we continue to do, not only be sustainable, but also to be successful. I'm going to say, well, we have I'm just going to mention this person's name, but I'm going to tell you a story about the other person. We call her our poster child.
I think I know who this is.
That's Dr. Janice Carroll, Dr. Georgette Redmond. Dr. Redmond, I mean, I can't say enough about her. She actually chairs our board for the school. But her whole, almost all the ministers in her church and some leaders have gone through our Bible college and still going now. But the person that I want to mention would have to be Lewis and Deborah Gillespie.
That's what I was going to say. You stole my answer. That's right. I was going to say that, yes.
Lewis and Deborah Gillespie, they pastor in this city here. And they came to our school back here a couple of years ago. And the whole reason, number one, was to get the biblical formation, the theological training. But they excelled in ways that were actually beyond my imagination. It really did. They became the leaders of our class at that time. As a matter of fact, they did the commencement address in our graduation. And Lewis said something that I did not know until he said it that day. He said that when he was in high school, he never had an opportunity to walk across the stage at graduation. And that day became full circle for him. Him and his wife, Deborah, I mean, they were phenomenal in terms of, studying, in terms of preparing themselves, in terms of taking the classes and passing the tests. Their scores were real high. But for him to say that this day meant more than the world to him, not only from a secular standpoint of walking across a stage receiving a high school diploma, and he did get it, but he didn't get a chance to walk. But to walk across the stage here at Cornerstone in our Bible college and receive his degree in theology was just mind-blowing. Of course, his speech, while he talked about it, his eyes teared up much as I'm trying not to do that now. But his eyes teared up, and immediately room filled to capacity. Everybody understood the gravity of the moment of what Louis Gillespie actually felt. Him and his wife, Deborah. So I'm sorry for stealing yours. You have to find you another
But
one.
that's all right, because there's so many. But
Yeah.
I think for me, and I probably would say this person because I relate to her in so many different ways, and that is Dr. Deborah Waters.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason I say that is, I went through my academic journey. I didn't go through my academic journey to pastor. I just went through the academic journey just because I just felt a nudge of God saying He wanted more from me academically. And as she even shared with you yesterday, that she went through this process. She wasn't a minister, she wasn't a pastor, and I do believe that someone who goes through this type of academic rigor, not because the call of pastor is calling them or the call of minister, but they want to be more equipped as a leader. They want to be more equipped as a Christian. I think that takes a very special person. Because I just think about when I was in the doctoral program, I was in a program full of pastors, and I was the only one that wasn't. And I admire her because she always want more. She always want more. And no different than Dr. Redman, she's consistently telling people.
Mm-hmm.
I was in Walmart one day, and she had this gentleman with her, and she says, Pastor God. I said, yes. She's like, this is such and such. He's going to be coming to the school. I was telling him about the school, and so it's just something that when someone has been impacted to the degree that they understand that it's not just beneficial for them, but it's beneficial for like-minded people that they know. It says a lot about the institution. It says a lot about the credibility. And so I would definitely say Dr. Deborah Waters would be my person since Dr. McIntyre stole the two, I was gonna say, the couple I was gonna say.
I would just say for me, when I started this, cutting corners, trying to take it, I'd take the short way around, I suppose. Whenever we first started, I've got to give a shout out to this school, because this school is the whole reason why we had our school here, and that's Rivers of Living Waters in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Back whenever, at that time, Paul Keeter was the pastor, and I think he was the president of the Chancellor of the college, Dr. Renee Sanders. That college is still going on today, I believe, under Pastor now Johnny Riviera. Rivers profoundly impacted my life. I was going there for actually an internship when I first came into the ministry. Our body gives what we call a ministry internship, 9 months intensive. And so I went there for that, and I encountered CLST at that time. I started taking classes there, and man, it literally transformed my life. And so in terms of non-negotiables for us, it was that if we're gonna present a journey for you, it's a journey, it's not a sprint. And if you're willing to commit to this, then we're here to support you in every step of the journey, every step of the way. And so taking shortcuts, that means in terms of making sure that you have the material for people to have. That's number one. Number two, starting on time. I mean, I'm time conscious. Making sure that the room is set up like it's a classroom, and making sure that the administrative part of our program is operating at its highest capacity that it can at this particular time. So taking shortcuts for me they were non-negotiables. I simply believe that if it's worth having, it's worth working for.
I would probably say, and some of it is probably my wiring, but I would probably say relationships. And I think one of the reasons I say that is because coming here and getting connected to the school, I primarily seen that the majority of students that were here were based off of relationships that Dr. McIntyre had with many of those that were in the community. And I think why I say relationships are so important, specifically when starting off, you may not have all of the financial stability for marketing, or you may not even have the know-how for marketing, but you have the relationships, especially if you're starting the church, because that gives you now an ability to have relationships with those in other churches, because this type of academic institution is really viable for those that are in the church. And so I think relationships are key when looking at, you're starting this program, you're starting from scratch, you don't know who to really reach out to, but because you understand that this is a theological institution, what better place or what better group of people to connect with than those that are like-minded, that are kingdom-minded, and that needs to grow spiritually. So I would say relationship. I think it goes back to, number one, word of mouth, right? Looking at those that have already come through the school. Now, the benefit of coming in and inheriting this position is that I came into a place and I came into a church that was already familiar with the school. And I think for me, one thing about my ministers and leaders, they understand the importance of personal development. They understand the importance, and I push it, the need for some form of academic something, right? And as me and Bishop was talking one day, it's like our leaders need to know, especially my ministers, you need to be in some form of training, you need to be in some form of learning, and what better place than to get connected to CLST, because we have it here. And so I think if I was to give just one challenge with it, and that is, sometimes in the church, we just feel the anointing is enough. And we don't put the value of the academic experience. And so to answer your question, I think as a leader, it's my job to continue to place before them the importance and the value of academia and the need of coupling academia with our scriptural training, with our scriptural development, understanding that it's not one over the other, it's both ands. God used Peter, but God used Paul. Two different people, two different academic experiences. God can use them both. But just imagine how much more God can use you if you have the anointing, but you also had some type of academic formation.
The first classes I think that really I took when I took CLST was training for reigning, 1 and 2. As a matter of fact, when I went out to promote the school, those are the 2 courses that I used to promote the school. And then those are the courses that for my staff here when I pastored, I used those 2 courses. Training for reigning 1 and 2, the life about what happened with David. Dr. Carter just did a phenomenal job with the story in the life of David and how he was trained to reign to be king. There's several courses kind of mining from Fuchsia Pickett that really blessed. Praying in another dimension. And those are courses that, I mean, I know they're dated, but those are courses that I felt like, for me, when I'm putting my leadership team together, my staff together, when I'm putting ministers together, those are courses that I felt like that would help uh, the theological formation that I think they needed. And then, of course, I say this many, many times: what I expect, I inspect. So some of that had to do with some just kind of going behind to make sure that everybody received the information, they understood the information, and they felt comfortable enough to be able to share the information. And so that was important to me. And so those courses come to my mind. I mean, there's so many courses right now. I just got a bunch of things running around in my mind about courses I've taken, but those comes to the surface to me more than anything else.
I would probably say it's not out yet, and this the course that I'm more curious about, and that's executive leadership. And the reason I say that is because I think one of the things in the church we have tend to struggle with is ensuring that we have right leaders in place, right? Unfortunately, in the church, oftentimes we have placed leaders in place based off of longevity of membership and faithfulness. Not saying that those things are not important, but those things does not grow ministry. And so ensuring that we have people in the church that can lead at a high level. Because if we really want to impact the community, if we really want to impact the church, if we want to impact those that are in the church, then we need to properly understand, how do you build effective teams? We need to properly understand, how do you handle conflict, right? What are the tools that are in place? We need to understand social psychology from the perspective of understanding what causes people to do what they do within organizations. And so I would probably say the executive leadership track. You asked us the question, if a school was starting off, what would be some of the non-negotiables? But I think another good question could also be, what would be some of the obstacles?
If I could just add an addendum to that, probably not just obstacles, but also what are the benefits? What are the benefits of having CLST as a partner, or you being a partner of CLST when it comes down to the theological training, the practical piece? And I love this in terms of the 6 divisions. Because I think every one of them touches the life of an individual who is really thinking about, advancing the kingdom of God. My question would be the sustainability. How do you start a school and then be intentional about sustaining it? How do you get the school to last beyond 5, 6, 7, even 10 years? I think that's important, because I don't think anybody who starts something wants to just see it filtered out, especially something that's important as a Bible college. And so, what are some steps that can use to help sustain the school? Now, we know, of course, number one, word of mouth marketing, that's very important, but then there's also a financial aspect to it. We're blessed because many of the people that work in are people that work in the church here. And so that helps. But the cost of not just the curriculum, not just the cost of getting the courses, but also the cost of having it in a building. What components would work for you to be successful in terms of, everything down to if you provided snacks for people who come, because they come in 3 nights if you got the brick and mortar. The other piece I think would be a good question is the DL piece. We have been very, very successful with getting a lot of our students who are taking courses in distant learning. And so that's been good. And so maybe touch on that some. What does a hybrid school look like? And I think I was in an interview with you a while back where we talked about hybrid schools and and some models of different schools that were actually taking place. And so maybe some of that.
And I love what he said, because I called them obstacles, but he called them sustainability. Because that's what I was really saying, right? Because I think to Dr. McIntyre's point is, how do, and one of the conversations we're having now is how do we get those who have went through the school to give back to the school? Right? Because how can we assist the student that falls on hard times without giving funds that's only income, right? But if we could have a quote unquote alumni pipeline where they can give back to the school, right? So that speaks to the sustainability, but it also can be an obstacle, because you may have a student that is very dedicated, but they have a financial hardship, right? And so I love how he placed it, sustainability.